Hopefully, over the past few weeks, you have checked out our newly redesigned, absolutely beautiful Prestige Junkie Pundits page. It's where many of the smartest awards writers on the internet, and me, are regularly updating our predictions in every Oscar category. But we're, of course, not the only people who are online sharing our Oscar predictions. When I was at the Middleburg Film Festival a few weeks ago, I talked to a lot of fellow awards writers about where we are with our predictions, and then sometimes wondering why we do any of this in the first place. And today, I've invited one of those awards writer friends, Marcus Jones, the awards editor of Indiewire, to join me and talk about the fine art and absolute nonsense that goes into Oscar predictions. After that, you'll hear my conversation with Sydney Sweeney. She's landing on many of those predictions lists right now for her really revelatory performance in the true story boxing drama Christy. I'm Katey Rich, and this is the Prestige Junkie Podcast. Marcus, thank you so much for coming to talk to me. I did spill some of the Middleburg beans with Chris Rosen on this podcast a few weeks ago, but any details from our horsey time in Middleburg that you think the people deserve to know?
No, I think you about covered it. I was bummed about the reaction to If I Had Legs. But yeah, especially Middleburg, it was just such a situation where you kind of kept running into talent. And so I kept joking that I got to hang out with Nathan Johnson, the composer of Knives Out.
Yeah.
Pretty much every day. It would just be like, oh, you again. Nice to see you.
I ran into him on this downtown street in Middleburg and, on the way back from it. And we were all just kind of like, so what are we doing today in this beautiful Virginia town? It's kind of the film festival magic right there.
Yeah. And you're around film lovers when you're at like a literal resort and no one is doing the activities. I'm like, does someone want to do axe throwing? It's there if we want to.
I was really hoping I would see like Diane Warren on the zip lines, but maybe next year. I mean, if Middleburg will have me back, I will go back truly anytime.
I know. Fingers crossed.
I do think in between moderating, talking to people, seeing movies, I do think you and I did a lot of the same kind of conversations there. Because whenever you run into people who are kind of even just obsessed over this stuff, not even professionally writing about it, it's a lot of like, who's in your five? How many Netflix movies you think you're getting in Best Picture? Like, it is kind of a sports adjacent conversation we're having this time of year, right?
Yeah, which, I think we'll get into sort of the pros and cons of that because I definitely have feelings about it.
Yeah. I feel like your predictions page at Indiewire, you don't do the thing where it's mid-July and you're like, here's everything that I think's out there. It feels like you take your time, and it's you and a couple other people who are kind of doing the full lay of the land. But just kind of talk through your process of, when I Google Indiewire Oscar predictions, it's all your stuff on there. How do you guys go about putting that out in the world?
Yeah, so I'm doing a lot of our above-the-line predictions, and then we have our crafts editor, Sarah Shotchett, doing crafts, and Wilson Chapman, who's covering animation for us, doing those races. With shorts, we're waiting till the short list.
Oh my God.
We have to be realistic.
Yeah, I assume, like me, you eventually watch the shorts and then get all the predictions wrong. It's usually what happens.
But for the most part, our approach is that we're not going to say something's a front runner. We're not going to say this is going to be a nominee until we have seen it. Mm-hmm. And so people on the Reddits and other forums get mad at us because it's like, how could you say that if Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande got nominated last year, they're not going to get nominated again? And it's, I can't say that for sure because I have not seen the film. Mm-hmm. And we've seen sequels kind of tank, even when the first one did good, especially this year. But yeah, it opens up, like, the fun of waiting until I haven't seen things is the advocacy of films like Train Dreams or things like that came out earlier, and you want to see kind of keep going because they're just good.
Yeah.
But also sort of trying to think about, like, well, if I'm forced to only look at what films I have, like, what are the case for some of these films?
Yeah, because a lot of the times it's not like you're trying to be an advocate, which you can in other outlets, but like if you're putting something on your list, you are trying to be realistic about like what's in the field. Like, as much as I might like, Jack Black in the Minecraft movie, there's a case to be made that is a great performance. I'm not sure I would put it on a list, but there's an advocacy aspect to it, especially when, as I assume, like me, you get calls from the people who are working on these campaigns being like, hey, can you put this person on your list? Like, it is really visible in this way that I find it really hard to wrap my head around. And I feel like you've been publishing this stuff longer than I have in terms of predictions. How have you gotten used to that?
Yeah, because you can only go so far. I think that maybe the advocacy is just putting something on my predictions list that people aren't even thinking about.
Is there any
Or
example you
some,
can think of? I'm looking at your list right now.
but I think something early on, and he's not in here right now just because of the best actor race situation in general, but like people talk a lot about Dylan O'Brien and Twinless as like something like, please, voters, keep this in mind because it's going to need like the extra push.
Yeah.
To even get to something like, I don't think he was nominated for Gotham Awards, but
No, but he
Indie
probably
Spirits are
should.
coming up.
That's true. God, I mean, this is Gotham Awards tangent, but I love the list that they came up with so much. But the fact that One Battle After Another was eligible for so many of those just had this feeling of being like, oh, all right, they'll have their time. Like, where are the Twinlesses? And, they made, I think Josh O'Connor got in for The Mastermind. There's like great stuff in there, but.
I love East of Wall getting in for Best Feature.
That was a totally new title to me. And I saw that on your list somewhere. Like, I think you have a In a Perfect World section.
Yeah, I think I have Best Director, but I think that film is so incredibly cool. It won the Next Award at Sundance.
What is it? Tell me about it.
So it's a blend of fact and fiction because the director was kind of hanging around North Dakota and they're like, oh, if you really want to make a film about someone, go check out like The Witch Over the Wall or like East of the Wall or something like that.
Amazing.
And it turns out that it's just like this woman who is like an incredible horse trainer and her kids are involved and they're on TikTok doing all these sorts of like trick videos, doing all spins and stuff on the horses. But the story is that she's a widow and she's trying to decide if she wants help to get her business going or if she wants to just kind of remain this like commune and do her own thing.
Wait, so it's not a documentary, but it's kind of like half documentary?
So the woman who is the star, that is her life. It's like a fictionalized version. It's
kind of like Chloe Zhao's first movie is kind of like that,
yes,
right? Okay.
Totally.
No, that's the perfect kind of thing when you're talking about advocacy. Like, you don't want to sit there and like tell people something that's not going to happen. But I feel like you and I are in the same boat where like how correct my predictions are is not really of interest to me. Like I would rather be surprised and see something weird pop up out there. Kind of as long as you feel like you have a grasp of what is and what isn't real.
Yeah. Especially with nominations.
Yeah. I mean, because with nominations, like I think we can all think of, Judas and the Black Messiah when both Lakeith Stanfield and Daniel Kaluuya get nominated in supporting and you're like, none of that is what I thought was going to happen. Like weird things happen all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, how is this race feeling to you so far, just in general? Like last year, we just spent so long not knowing what the front runner was, and then it just became obvious after a while. This doesn't feel like quite the same situation, but what's the fun level for you right now?
Yeah, so I kind of just came upon this week, but I'm realizing I feel like there's not a lot of Best Picture contenders. Like, they're going to get to 10.
Sure,
but
they
I
have to.
think the other categories, the acting races, there's, like, so much to think about. And so even something like Begonia, where it's like, I can't say for sure that that's going to get into Best Picture. I mean, with any Yorgos film, that's kind of the case. But, like, a performance like Emma Stone's, or some people are more partial to Jesse Plemons, like, those are so interesting. It would say so much about how far we've come should Emma in that role get another Best Actress nomination. It's like letting your freak flag fly.
I mean, God, Yorgos really has done more than almost any individual to get the Oscars to let their freak flag fly. Someday we need to give him credit for that properly. Because he hasn't won an Oscar, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
he's now racking up well, that's the other thing, too. We'll get into it a little bit later, but you're seeing a lot of people who have tons and tons of nominations, no wins. And so...
Yeah. No, I want to talk about that, I guess, in Best Director specifically. But like, as you're saying, you don't feel like there's a lot of movies to fill the Best Picture 10. But like, I'm looking at your lineup and like in the kind of like second tier, so you have contenders, long shots, and In a Perfect World and Time Will Tell. And you have Time Will Tell, Avatar, and Wicked, which I think a lot of people have in their list. But like Begonia, is this thing on? It was just an accident. Like Train Dreams. Like I think all of those could fit in with the 10 you already have listed in frontrunners. Like, that's a pretty robust list to me.
I know. It's just sort of like this sure things is what I'm kind of stumped on, because I think that we can say Marty Supreme feels really strong. One Battle After Another, of course, feels strong. Sentimental Value feels super strong. Sinners. Hamnet definitely. At this point, Frankenstein, I guess. Netflix is Did
you have the Frankenstein bump feeling in Middleburg that I did, where people, it just seemed like all of a sudden everyone there who saw it couldn't stop talking about it?
Yeah, I went to the LA premiere too, and that was the people that were there were kind of blown away because it was the Academy Museum thing. I mean, people still have the same issues. I think
with the CGI wolves or maybe other things.
Yeah, my favorite was someone was like, "Oh, those are like Twilight level wolves."
I don't know if I would go that far, but fair.
But also just I love Oscar Isaac, but I think the portion that's Dr. Frankenstein is not as strong as the portion that is the creature. Jacob Elordi, once it gets to that part, it's really a lot more interesting in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that the second half is the better half, right? That's kind of like the reverse of the House of Dynamite situation where people leave kind of frustrated because the third act of that is the weakest part of it. Okay, but back to your Best Picture list. You've got F1 in there, which I think you're the only person I have seen put F1 in their Best Picture 10. So tell me more.
I was a little F1 pilled. They had a huge event in LA where they brought in Damson Idris, Brad Pitt, Sarah Niles, the director Joseph Kosinski, Jerry Bruckheimer, and then they also had Lewis Hamilton, who's one of the most famous
and he has a
F1
cameo
drivers
in that movie, right?
Yeah, and he produced it as well.
Right.
He was a big part of making it official F1.
Yeah.
But there is a method to my madness. I think every year the conversation is about how the Academy is becoming more and more global. And F1 is an Apple film. This is a proper Apple film. They're working on this campaign. I can't say the same for Highest to Lowest. That seems more A24 is working on that.
Yeah.
But it has the backing of Apple. It has a lot of innovation behind the scenes. It's that conversation again about the cameras are so new that F1, the sport, is trying to use them.
Yeah.
And that film did so much better internationally. And so I do think that if the conversation is around European or international influence on the Academy, they seem more partial to F1.
So we're all expecting
audiences.
Sentimental Value to be the international thing, and you're like, wait a second, it's actually the Brad Pitt car racing movie.
You know what people love better than Norwegian plays? F1. No, but it is one of those things where if Sinners is kind of the opposite, where part of the conversation was that it didn't do as well internationally, and that is a way bigger conversation that we can have about why that may be.
Super loaded conversation that is not over yet for sure.
But I think that is something to look at. If year after year, it really looks like there is a European contingent that is super influential on nominations. And so it's just something to think about. But that's an example of something that I'm thinking about right now. But then when Wicked and Avatar come out, it's okay, well, am I finally bumping F1 off the list? Or am I Springsteen, maybe?
Well, it's also the Top Gun Maverick model, obviously. You have Joseph Kosinski back as a director. That movie was kind of the savior of movie theaters. It really literally was. That movie and Elvis may have really changed the course of history in retrospect. But the blockbuster lane this year is busy in, I think, a really satisfying way. Sinners being in there, Avatar and Wicked coming in there. I know One Battle After Another is not super profitable. I still think it's bigger than most of the movies that were in the race last year. So I wonder about the power of having that kind of big movie when you've got all these other ones in there too.
Right. Because this was part of the conversation around Gotham's, is that they expanded to 10. And I joked, just when you expand something doesn't mean they're all of a sudden going to, go populist.
Sure.
When the Academy expanded to 10, and what was it, 2008 or 2009?
2009 was the first year.
Yes, Avatar, literally still the biggest film ever, made it in, as did Up, the first animated film. since Beauty and the Beast to make it into Best Picture. But what won? It was Hurt Locker.
Yeah.
So.
Or like, was it the next year that was Winter's Bone that made it in, and everyone was like, wait a second, how little are we willing to go?
Exactly. And so I think that while I think from the people who produce the telecast really care about like more blockbusters, I don't think the voters are necessarily thinking too hard about like getting a big movie in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that people will continue to complain about it forever. To move on to your director's list, because you were talking about like directors who've been nominated a bunch and never won, like that's just kind of the Paul Thomas Anderson category this year. I mean, Bradley Cooper's still out there. I saw Is This Thing On in Middleburg and loved it. He's not on your list. So I don't know that his director campaign is as strong as it was for Maestro or A Star Is Born. But I mean, do you see the best director race as just PTA and then, everyone jockeying in place behind him?
Yes, because 11 nominations, no win is kind of wild.
Yeah.
And I feel a little, I don't know. I think Ryan Coogler is probably fine about it, but like it's tough that part of the conversation around Sinners Oscars chances is that like, oh, it feels like this director has been overlooked. He's never been nominated for Best Director. Yeah. But yeah, like Paul Thomas Anderson has a very similar narrative with
and
a longer history.
I keep saying that Ryan Coogler is under 40, and I'm trying. He's 39. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, he turns 40 next year. So he's still under 40, which means he is a baby when it comes to directors. But no, it's just the thing I can't really get over about Warner Brothers having these two super strong Oscar contenders in a year where they might be for sale and no longer exist. That's a whole separate question. But that Sinners and One Battle have such similar lanes. Like you watch both of those movies and you're like, wow, best cinematography winner, best score, best production design. And it's like, wait a second, there's only one of them can win. And I have yet to really decide how any of that's going to go.
Yeah, and I think with Best Director in particular, as to defending my overlooking Bradley Cooper as much as I love his
I'm
films.
not too worried about you overlooking Bradley Cooper as much as I like that movie.
But this is a category where another one where we've absolutely seen that international influence. The director's branch are getting people like Paweł Pawlikowski for Cold War in. Or didn't Vinterberg get in?
Yes, for another round in 2020. You have Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness in 22. There really is like one a year and sometimes it's a lone director situation, like with Paweł Pawlikowski. I don't think those have happened as much lately. But you have Joachim Trier basically as the representative here.
Yeah, and could change at any time because now Guillermo's up, Jafar Panahi's up.
Yeah, Jafar Panahi. I mean, Guillermo obviously has an Oscar, is very much beloved in this crew. But Jafar Panahi is the one I'm really keeping an eye on. Like, you want to talk about narratives as a director? Like PTA's 11 Oscar nominations are one thing, but like jail time in Iran, and also like even after getting out of jail, being like, I'm going to keep making movies. Like, you guys try and stop me. Like, he is an incredible figure, and he has been everywhere, including roaming the hotel halls of Middleburg, which would never stop being surreal for me. I just feel like he is really, really strong. But I don't know who I want to kick out of your 5 to put him in there, though. It's tough.
Yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, it's still a very Eurocentric thing. I don't think outside of Bong Joon-ho, I don't think we've really seen that sort of more international focus on
Are you counting
director.
Guillermo as being American adjacent, basically, as being from North America? Okay.
Yeah, because primarily he's working within our system.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, in terms of like the Cannes crowd, it's normally the European directors that break in. You don't see it as much with Asian directors, Middle Eastern directors. They're still kind of sectioned off in the best international feature category.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so speaking of Asian directors, hang on. You have Park Chan-wook in your long shots, and I think no other choice you've got in there in the Best Picture mix as well. And I love this movie, and I keep kind of wondering if the surge is going to come for it, because it feels like being a Neon release, it's basically competing against Sentimental Value, Secret Agent, It Was Just an Accident, all the Cannes movies. Did you ever have hope that this could be Park Chan-wook's year, and have you given up on it?
I did have hope. I mean, because the other thing too is that this film is more accessible. There is like a bit of brutality to it, but you're not seeing tongues get cut off. So it felt like this was one that more people were willing to see. But it is the neon of it all. Like they made it their mission to work with these kind of directors like Park Chan-wook and Jafar Panahi that have similar narratives about like they're festival darlings but haven't been embraced by the Academy yet.
I mean, I do wonder if this is a year where we kind of let go of this idea of a studio only being able to have so many contenders just because Neon's slate is so strong. And, you know, you have to make room. It's just a good year. Like, I just feel like this year's lineup is, you know, a much stronger overall than last year, maybe any of the years since COVID. Like, it's just a great lineup of stuff. But if Neon's going to keep picking up these masterpieces, like, maybe at some point they do all get nominated and we figure out how that works.
Yeah, I think my hope right now, and this is everyone's hope, is that they spread the wealth, and it never happens. It's always like, give everything to Oppenheimer, which sure. But I loved last year that although Emilia Perez still won some Oscars, I'm Still Here was still able to win Best International. If there can start being kind of a split where if a Best International contender makes it into Best Picture or multiple, like last year, I like the idea of hopefully voters being like, well, like, let's acknowledge Park Chan-wook in Best International and this director in Best Director and this director in Best Picture. So
Wagner Moura for Best Actor? Is that what you're
I'm definitely on that train. I really am on that train.
Same. Okay, we could go on for this forever, and we probably will at some point. But before we move off of director and picture, you did put in for Testament of Ann Lee in your Best Picture 10, which I'm thrilled by. I love this movie. I love Mona Fastfold, who I think you do not see as a total lock for Best Director. It's a tough field. But why are you feeling so bullish on Ann Lee?
Because it's just something we have not seen before. And I think there's already a lot of respect developed post Brutalist, especially for Mona Fastfold and Brady Corbet. Brady co-wrote this one. But this is really Mona's vision, and it's a singular vision. You see the film, and it's like, because people were like, oh, it's a Shaker musical. And you try to grasp on that idea, and then you watch it, and it's like, I don't know when one song ends and one song begins, and these people are shaking like crazy, and we finally see the chairs, but I kind of dig
the chairs. I'm so glad that you're as invested in the chairs as I am. I was so happy to see them.
It was true. It's as if they said the movie title, The Testament of Ann Lee. When I saw the chair, I was like, chair, we did it.
Movie needs more chairs.
That one's for the real shaker heads.
I love this movie, and my trailer's complaint is like, more chairs, please. Just show us more of how they carved that wood. It's perfect. Okay, so again, we could go category by category forever. Clearly, we have to have you back. But just as we start to wrap this up, like, what category are you most invested in? Either for something you're rooting for or like the potential chaos, or both?
I think that Best Supporting Actress has room to have one of my favorite winners because I love Tiana Taylor. I knew
that was what you were going to say. And that kind of makes me wonder if we're underestimating like how powerful she could be for a win.
I think
she's such a favorite right now.
It really could happen. But Best Actor is like the one that is killing me right now in the best way because I have 18 names written down, not including Time Will Tell.
Yeah.
And that's just not enough. Like, there's even more people who would be like a viable contender in the acting race. Like, there's just really a lot of films this year that the strongest element is the lead performance by the actor.
And I feel like in an industry that feels so male-centric, we don't realize how often the Best Actor field can just feel like weak. Like, just not that there aren't people giving great performances, but something that's out there in the right way. Like last year, we all knew September onward, the 4 lead actor contenders, and then Sebastian Stan sneaks in at the end, and that was like set in stone. And now it is truly like 18 people who could reasonably fill this, and I'm rooting for almost all of them in some different way.
Yeah, and I do have a take because I know you've been talking about Timmy versus Leo for a long time.
I'm not invested in Timmy versus Leo. It's the most important thing in my life.
Love them both. the conversation, especially in terms of like Timmy being the next Leo, like it took a long time for Leonardo DiCaprio to win the Best Actor Oscar.
Sure did.
And I don't think they're like that eager to like, I think they could kind of like give or take him. I think One Battle After Another is amazing and he should make it in there. But I was also on the train that he would make it into Killers of a Flower Moon, given people told me they hate that character. But
he's so likable in One Battle After Another, though.
But have you seen Marty Supreme yet?
No, I'm finally going to see it in like 2 weeks.
I love that for you because it's coming back. But I think the one note is that for people who were turned off by Timothée Chalamet's SAG acceptance speech, that is the person that you get in Marty Supreme. Like sort of the most heightened I am who you say I am type of performance in Marty Mauser.
I'm like now looking back through Best Actor and trying to see how long it's been since there was a lead actor winner who was, flawed and did some of the wrong thing, but was not like fundamentally sympathetic and like sad, Adrian Brody in The Brutalist, like he does all kinds of, not great things, but you feel for him. Oppenheimer. Yeah. King Richard, like I really am I don't know how long it's been since there was someone who won for Best Actor where you're like, oh, this guy, which sounds like what you're talking about with Marty Supreme.
He's still charming, but it is like, this guy sucks.
It might be Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood, which came right after Forrest Whitaker and Last King of Scotland. So there was a run there. But listeners weigh in if there's someone I'm overlooking as even the Joker, right? Like, you feel bad for the Joker.
Oh, God.
Joker.
You feel bad for the
Joker. You want to get out of that theater.
Get me out of here.
So wait, do you think in that scenario Leo wins a second Oscar, or do you think like Michael B. Jordan swoops in, Wagner Moura swoops in?
I think it's more that someone else can swoop in.
Yeah.
I think Wagner Moura is the most interesting because it's that international thing. Yeah. Like I said, a lot of times performances not in English or a European language aren't quite making it in there. Yeah. But we've seen this Brazilian surge, and like this is an actor who modern people know even more than the star of I'm Still Here.
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, he's been on Narcos for however many seasons that show ran, and I watched all of Dope Thief. I'm not sure anybody else did, but I thought he was great on it. Yeah. And like, I think he's great in These Rooms. I think that movie is really appealing for Americans in an interesting way. And, the way I interviewed him and the director in Toronto and the way they talked about politics in Brazil and they're dealing with their own right-wing leader who's now in jail. Like, they have an appeal to make to people who don't necessarily know anything about Brazilian history. But also a lot of people who, like me, didn't really know anything about Brazilian history, saw I'm Still Here, and now have a lot more context for The Secret Agent, which I think, unintentional, I'm sure, but works very well hand in hand.
Yeah, really great companion pieces. And also, he's doing the twin thing a little bit. He doesn't only play one role in The Secret Agent. That's true. Is that a
spoiler? I haven't been able to decide if that...
he says he plays 3 roles, and I forget who the third role is, so...
I forget. Okay, I gotta go look this up now. I mean, The Secret Agent has so much going on that, like, there's stuff that's like genuinely surreal. So I think if you're talking about something as basic as an actor playing 2 roles, that's like not the half of what's in store in The Secret Agent. Okay, actual last question for you. You were talking about doing a big event for F1. You cover a lot of these in-person events I run into in them when I'm at LA. Anything else you're noticing really pulling out all the stops so far, or is everyone kind of waiting for Governor's Awards to go hard?
Yeah, I will say that Netflix is having that problem again where I don't quite know if they know what like the game plan is. But I had a theory that the closer Jay Kelly got to Hollywood, the more people will like it. And I went to the premiere and people really liked it. And so I think that it's not out yet. Weirdly, at the AFI sort of screening, after party, et cetera, more people did start bringing up George Clooney for Best Actor, which more is just like, oh, God, this is complicating the race than I actually feel like he's going to make it in. But now weirdly, after all this talk about Adam Sandler wanting an Oscar, like, I do think he's comfortably in like going to be nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Oh, see, and I just kicked him out of my predictions because so I'm looking at your prediction. You have Jacob Elordi, Paul Mescal, Sean Penn, Adam Sandler, and Stellan Skarsgård, and I have Benicio del Toro in mine. So two of those. But I think Adam Sandler's terrific in Jake Kelly, but I think you're exactly right that hometown audience is who would put him in there. So that's strong evidence that the Sandler fandom is coming around.
Yeah.
I also heard that Train Dreams played well at AFI as well. So Netflix, again, how are they going to pick a main horse?
It's all very fingers crossed. I mean, Best Supporting Actor is another. Well, okay, I will say Sean Penn is hilarious because it's very much, well, I guess you got to give it to that guy.
He literally has 2 Oscars.
He does it again. But everyone else, I'm like, I would be really happy to see any of them get nominated or win.
Oh, because... Well, no, Paul Mescal has been nominated, but everyone else, you have Elordi, Sandler, and Skarsgård will all be first-time nominees, which is a great thing to see.
Yeah.
Well, Marcus, I will see you in LA very soon, and we'll check in and see how much your predictions have changed. So please come back on again soon, and we'll hash out more of this stuff.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. I know there's so much more to talk about.
Oh, my God. It's like, that's all we want to do. I'll be back in a moment with my conversation with Sydney Sweeney. We'll be right back. Now let's hear my conversation with Sydney Sweeney. She caused a bit of a sensation at the Toronto International Film Festival earlier this year with the premiere of her new drama, Christy. Even at a festival as starry as Toronto, Sydney Sweeney really stood out. She's both one of the most acclaimed actresses of her generation. She's got 2 Emmy nominations after all, and just one of the most famous. And then on top of all of that, she really blew people away with her performance in the film as Christy Martin. She's the boxer who broke barriers for women in the sport in the 90s, even as she was battling her own demons behind the scenes and at home. The movie is directed by David Michaud, and Ben Foster co-stars as Christy Martin's husband and trainer, who is not exactly great at either of those things. Sweeney took the stage after the film's premiere with Christy Martin by her side. And as you'll hear in our conversation, she still gets emotional thinking about it. The movie was a labor of love for Sweeney. She produced the film in addition to starring in it, and she's really actively pursuing as many different kinds of projects as she can right now. She has this moment where she has the power to help get these movies made, and she is flexing that power. So we talked about the physical transformation and work that went into playing Christy Martin, but then a whole lot about her work as a producer, how she's taking charge of telling her own stories and crafting her own films, and then also a little bit about her next project in which she stars and produces. It's the thriller The Housemaid. She is a real mogul in the making, I think, and she's got a lot on her mind that she shared with me. I think you will enjoy hearing all about it in my conversation with the star of Christy, Sydney Sweeney. So I was reading in another piece about you and Christy that you had started training in MMA when you were 12, like only 12? That feels really young.
No,
okay.
kids start when they're super young. Like they start in jiu-jitsu. It's great discipline for kids. It's awesome. I would have started younger, to be honest.
Yeah, because I knew that you were a really athletic kid, but I didn't know that it had been kind of hand-to-hand stuff, which obviously leads toward Christy. But so you were doing that as you were pursuing an acting career as a teenager. Like you're living in Burbank and doing MMA at the same time.
I was. So growing up, I was on a lot of team sports. I was on a soccer team, a baseball team. I did ballet. I was on a snow ski team. I wakeboarded. I slalom skied. And then when I came to LA, my parents didn't really know how to get involved in team sports. Like we just didn't know the community. And also because of an auditioning schedule, like it's just all over the place. So you can never really commit to anything. And I really missed having that type of community and that activity. And a couple of my friends growing up, they started getting into kickboxing, my friends Dylan and Zane. And my mom was like, why don't you try it with them? And I got super into it. And I started grappling and kickboxing, and I did it for a few years.
Yeah, I wonder how those things went hand in hand for you. And maybe as a teenager, you don't think about it, but sports teaches you so much about your body and how if you angle your shoulder, it does something different. And acting is so much like that too, just in how you physically hold yourself in space. Did they relate to each other for you then, or do they now?
I don't think that I associated the two together. I actually think that I felt like they're so separate from one another. Now, of course, especially through Christy, I've learned so much about my movement and the mental game that it all is. But I don't think growing up I had any idea that
Yeah.
the two would be tied together.
It was probably better that way, right? Like if you're doing the crazy kid audition schedule and then you have this one consistent thing that is totally unrelated, it feels like it's a grounding effort more than anything.
It's a consistency that you don't have.
Yeah, totally. So the story I read is that, Christy comes to you. I think you're like on a plane to Barcelona for a fashion shoot, like, kind of busy flying all over the place. But like career-wise and in terms of what you knew you wanted to do and what you could challenge yourself for, like how did it fit into what you thought you were looking for or change what you thought you were looking for at that point?
So I actually was searching for a role that was going to challenge me in a physical sense. I had been having meetings with Ronda Rousey, and I was starting to find different like sport biopics that I could start to chase because
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Okay, so you were right there.
I was. And honestly, when Jen, my agent, sent me this, I was completely blown away. I was blown away, one, because it's exactly what, as an actor, I was looking for. Two, as a person, I couldn't believe I didn't know who Christy Martin was. And I knew that I had to be a part of making sure people knew who this incredibly inspiring woman was.
Yeah. Knowing that as a producer that you're kind of able to create projects for yourself and you've been able to do that with a couple of different things, like after Anyone But You kind of becomes this hit in this way, you're thinking like, okay, that is one thing I can do. And now how do I produce things that show I can do this and this and this? Like, it feels like that's what's coming in the next couple months.
Well, I kind of love, I love acting because I get to play all of these different types of characters. I get to try out different lives. I get to meet new people. I get to learn new things. And I'm kind of approaching producing in the same way of I want to try out all different types of stories, different genres, and then I can kind of see what I love developing the most. Maybe I continue jumping all over the place for the rest of my life, or I'm like, you know what? I really love developing rom-coms, or I really love developing horrors. And I'm at a stage in my career where I want to try everything and learn and just see what sticks and what I like the most.
So you haven't found the thing you like developing most yet. It's still out there.
I haven't tried everything yet.
There's so many genres out there in the world to take on.
There's so many stories to tell. But I love telling stories about complex women. I think that it's very important to show that there's a lot of different sides to us.
Yeah. To rewind before we get to Christy even, so you start your production company in 2020. And first of all, weird time for anything career-wise to be happening. But I wonder about like what made that the moment to do it. Your career is kind of just taking off. I think a lot of people act for a really long time before they start producing. Like, how did you know, like even know that you could do it, much less that was the right time for it? How did that kick off then?
Well, I'm an avid book reader. So I was reading a bunch of books during COVID, and I started falling in love with a bunch of different stories, and I started Googling to see if they had been made into movies or TV shows, and I started learning about rights and how you develop different books and IP, and it kind of started spiraling from there. I started reading like Reddit articles and getting the rights to different articles. People were sending me books that hadn't been published yet. I was getting sent scripts, blacklist scripts, and then it just started compiling like that.
Yeah. So when you're having these meetings as a producer and as someone who's bringing people IP, like how different is it than when you're meeting with someone as an actress? Are you seeing a different side of the business that would have been invisible to you?
Oh, completely. I'm learning so much more. I get to have a seat at the table, and I get to have like a creative control over different things, which is really fun. I've always believed it's a team sport. And it doesn't just take one person. So I love being able to bring tons of people together. I feel like it's a huge, it's like a puzzle piece that you have to figure out who are all the pieces that fit into the right places. And I love it. It's a challenge.
So when Christy comes to you, it's not a book. It's IP in a different way as someone's story, but you get this script. So then how does that production part of it step in for you? What is the place where you jump into it and start bringing things together?
Yeah, so it was interesting. It was the first time that I'd been brought a script that already had a director attached. The script was in a great place. And I then came on and we took it out for financing. So I'd worked with Blackberry before they financed Immaculate for me. And so I had a great working relationship with Teddy and everyone over there. And I really wanted to work with them again. So I'm very happy and honored that they wanted to bring Christy's story to life.
So when you go out for financing like this, you get the people who are like, lesbian boxer, no thank you, and have to like persuade them. Like how, like what do you kind of learn about that? You know, the knee-jerk reaction people have to saying like, this won't make money. And then you say, no, actually, here's what the story is. Here's what the audience for this is.
Well, I think everyone was blown away by Christy's story. A lot of people actually had a lot of the same reactions I did of, I can't believe I don't know who she is. And everyone was very passionate about it, and everyone really wanted to be involved with it. But we also knew that it was going to be a tough sell. I mean, we did it as an indie. It is it's a female boxing film, which many of the challenges that Christy faced, those types of movies face the same challenges in the box office. But we knew that her story deserves to be told, and Teddy and the entire team at Blackberry did too.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I love about this movie is how clear it is that Christy is. I think it's Katey O'Brien's character who's like, you don't have to be an asshole, like just like really straight up. And she's obviously so much the victim of so many situations in this, but she's a jerk for really no reason at all for so much of the movie. And I know that, you know, the real Christy is such a big part of this. Like meeting her and knowing that's part of her story, like how do you get that in there and be like, all right, Christy, no, sorry, we got to be honest about how you were a jerk in this situation.
Christy was awesome. She was with us from the very beginning. She had so many meetings with David and Mira as they wrote and developed a script. And then during pre-production, she was on board with us. When we were filming, she was there constantly. And afterwards, she was one of the first people to get to see the film. So she has been a huge supporter, and she wanted it to be as honest as possible. She wanted to show the world what she went through and the realities of that time and what she faced. And she knew that it wasn't always going to be pretty and glamorous, that she had to show some of the dark sides as well.
Did you feel like you really kind of had to get into like why she did act that way, like why she did push people away and let people in, and even if maybe that's not what she would think of it, but like your version of her, right? Like the psychology work you do.
It was interesting. She actually talked about this yesterday. We were on Sirius XM, I think, and she kind of briefly mentioned how she would put on this persona and she would talk badly to people and talk trash, but it was an outlet for her because she couldn't do it at home. And it was an outlet for her because she couldn't be who she wanted to be. And so she was kind of like mad at herself that she was put in this box and put in this cage.
Yeah. Did that make you think about the way that, you know, boxing personas exist, and when you're acting, and even when you're like on a red carpet, you're kind of being like a version of yourself? Like, did that overlap play into how you kind of figured out your way through playing a boxer?
Oh, constantly. I learned and realized so much about myself through Christy. I was like, we have so many fights within the ring and outside the ring in our respective areas. And it is, I mean, people put on a character of who she was. She was this character in different situations, and in many cases, like I play characters. That's all I'm doing, and so people sometimes can't disassociate me from those characters. And when I'm on a red carpet, it's a different version of who I am. I grew up in a small town. I just wear jeans and t-shirts and I run around and I hang out with my family and my cousins, and then I get to go to red carpets and play dress up, and I bring my family so they get to see this crazy side of the world. But it's all different versions of who you are. Just like when you go to work, sometimes you might be someone different than who you are when you're watching TV on the couch.
Yeah. The slight digression to get back to Christy in a minute, but you're talking about being from a small town. And I like the way that you always talk about home in that way, because I think there's the way you can go be a child actor and be like, I've left it all behind. I'm in the big city. But like that attachment and the way that you talk about it, like as someone who's also from a small town, like I find very moving and also connected to Christy in some ways about like not forgetting where you are and the roots that you come from. Like, was there ever a world in which you would be like, I'm LA forever, or was home always going to drag you back in that way?
No, I don't think I ever thought about going back home. Like I was very young still when I left LA, or left back home and came to LA. And I always loved going home for the holidays and for summer and for big like family moments. But I never thought that I'd fully go back until the last few years. And I'm like, wow, I'm watching all my cousins have kids, and I see how they still get to raise them where they're running around outside, they're hiking and building tree houses, and they're in every sport, and they're constantly being kids. And you see like a 12-year-old there versus a 12-year-old here, and I'm like, oh my God, I want my kids to be kids. So I think about it in that sense. And I also grew up with all my cousins as my best friends, and they're still my best friends to today. And I want my family to be able to have that type of community. So I think it's more of just family is super important to me, and
Yeah.
I want to keep it that way.
If Bruce Willis and Demi Moore could move to Idaho at like the peak of their fame in the 90s, like I feel like you can make this work. The model is there for you.
I am neighbors with my grandma, and it's the greatest thing ever. I love it.
That really is kind of ideal. Okay, back to Christy after that. So the thing that Ben Foster had been saying about you is not just that you were like, a leader in the character of Christy, but the way that you were talking to everybody on the set, like making sure everyone in every position on the set was kind of acknowledged and welcomed, and how rare that is, even though it feels like it should be kind of a default position. And I wonder either where you learned that or how you realized what a big impact that could make on a set, just the way that you talk to the people who you're working with.
I have to just probably thank my parents, because they always led with being kind, and that's the most important thing. Like if you walk away and someone just remembers you as a kind person, that's the most important thing. And I also know that you need every single person on this set to be able to complete your day. Like every single crew member's job is vital to the success of this film. And I've always appreciated everyone's hard work, and I've been on sets where the number one on the call sheet isn't kind to people and doesn't think others are important, and I've seen how it trickles down and affects that entire production from day 1 to day 50 or how many days you have, and I just knew I never wanted to be that person. And I have fun with the crew. They all become my best friends. Many times, a lot of my different sets, like I bring different crew members from different projects because I love working with them.
But so when you're doing Christy, especially in the third act of it, you're going through some really harrowing stuff on set, and like being able to get in that place where you can do that on a set and there's 30 people standing around, I think can be really hard. And then being able to get off of that and still be the boss and the leader and have that attitude, that's a hard transition to make. How do you balance those things and kind of stay within the world but be the professional you're talking about?
I've always had this, I don't want to say ability, but I've always been really capable and good at being able to jump in and out. And the moment they call action, it turns on, and the moment it calls cut, I'm back to sit. And I think it's a really healthy way for me to be able to process everything and be able to go back and help facilitate or brainstorm or figure out the rest of the day or be friends with whoever needs a friend at the time, and then jump back into these super heavy emotional scenes. And especially when you feel safe with the cast and crew that you're surrounded by. But I've always had a rule for myself of not putting any of my own personal thoughts into a character or into a scene, so that way I'm fully just thinking how my character would, so that I can jump in and out of it way easier.
I feel like you hear the opposite of that from a lot of people sometimes. It's like, I have to find a hook that relates to something I've had in my life to be able to do that. Like, were you taught that at some point, or has it just always been kind of natural to you?
I had a mentor when I was younger. It was actually Cody McPhee. He's a friend of mine. His dad.
Great actor.
He's beyond talented. And his dad was my mentor for a little bit. And he's one who taught me that. He was like, it's the healthiest version for yourself. And as I got older, I started thinking about it. I was like, yeah, also, if I'm thinking about, let's say, something that would make me sad is like my dog dying, that's not going to be the same kind of sadness that my character is experiencing in this scene. So it's going to take me out of that scene, actually. And I'm not going to be thinking about what my character's thinking about. And I've just learned the importance of listening in a scene. And if I'm just listening to what is happening and observing what is happening as my character, that should be affecting me.
And then you preserve the part of yourself that doesn't want to think about your dog dying, and you go about the rest of your
Then
day.
I can just go and hang out with my dog and everything's fine.
And be so glad that your dog is right there for you. Before we were started talking, I was looking at the trailer for The Housemaid, which, I don't want to spoil any twist for anybody or anything, but there was this kind of throwback vibe to it that I think Christy has, and I think also Anyone But You's has, of this movies that we think we don't make anymore. And then everyone says, oh, I wish we could just like go back to some, these kinds of movies. Is that your taste or something that deliberately you want to do there? Like, is there a getting back to a kind of movie that you want to be able to do in producing these projects?
It's definitely my taste. I love movies that feel timeless in a sense, but then also bring you back to your childhood memories of your experiences with movies and that feeling that you used to get. And I love being able to jump fully into another world. And that's especially with Anyone But You, that was some of my biggest conversations with Will. I was like, I want to make this feel like an early 2000s rom-com. And for Housemaid too, I was like, I want this to feel in its own world, timeless. I don't want to make this feel beyond modern. I want it to have like a grit and a grain to it.
Yeah. I mean, and also the fact that you think about those movies and you see them in a theater. And again, like your career taking off during the pandemic when it's like, we'll never see movies in theaters again. And it just feels like so often with these projects, Christy too, like it's a great theatrical experience, like seeing it at film festivals. I feel like people are becoming aware that these kinds of movies can feel so much richer when you watch them that way.
Oh, completely. It's a community experience. If you can feel the film in a complete different way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was at the Toronto screening that was not the premiere, which, I had heard was like such a huge experience. But I just kind of can't imagine how overwhelming it is to work like this on something and then see it land in that way. I mean, hopefully you've gotten to experience it a couple of different ways. But for Christy, it seemed like it was really special. It
was beyond special, especially at the Toronto premiere. I had Christy sitting in front of me, and I'd known that she had seen the movie before because we showed it to her and she called me right after. But I'd never watched it with her and with an audience. And it was such an emotional experience. I was just crying my eyes out. I'd see Lisa put her arm around Christy and comfort her during different scenes. And it was just emotionally affect me like no other. And then when we walked on stage and then Christy walked out and everybody just started applauding. I'm gonna cry right now. It's so powerful. And to see her go through absolutely everything that she went through and then stand up on that stage and reclaim her story and be as strong as she is, it's spectacular.
I love that you got to watch Christy watch it. I've at a couple of premieres I've done that. You like watch the people in the movie and you kind of want to watch the movie but watch them at the same time. It's so nosy, but it's so satisfying to watch someone else watch the movie. Okay, last question. After all this producing and the way you're thinking about story, do you want to direct a movie at some point?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
It seems like you're putting all the pieces in place.
We'll see what it is.
That does it for today's episode. This podcast is edited by Brett Fuchs and produced by Brett Fuchs and me. Our theme music is by Dave Gonzalez. Thanks again to my co-host, Marcus Jones. Subscribe to the Prestige Junkie newsletter at theankler.com and to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We will see you next week.